Camera equipment is important, but it doesn't necessarily make the photograph or the photographer. I've seen some really, really talented photographers who use iPhones.
And of course, as a photographer, what are some of your favorite places or subjects to photograph?
Well, as you can see behind me, New York City is one of my favorite places to photograph. And I grew up in the New York City area, and it has become my, my muse. I love New York City. I love photographing it during the day. I love photographing it at night. I do a lot with the full moon rising over the different landmarks in the New York City area. You can see this photo over there. That is an actual photograph. It's not photoshopped. I have an app that tells me where the moon is going to come up each night, and I can track the trajectory so I know exactly when it's going to hit my landmark. That photo, by the way, was a finalist in the Empire State Building Photo Contest in 2015. I have since been a finalist for the last 4 years, and this year I'm going to win it.
Perfect. We're all rooting for you over on this side, Peter.
Cool.
Now, with the photographs of New York, and of course growing up in the New York area, was it mainly, some of the big buildings in New York that inspired you to really shoot them?
So for me, it's a love affair with the architecture, with the skyline, with the ambiance, with the vibe that is New York. And when I came back to the East Coast, I lived in California for many years. That's where I practiced law. I worked in the film and TV business. And when I came back, I fell in love all over again with New York City. And it's, I have to say, I'm glad I don't live in Manhattan, but I love photographing the skyline. And it's inspiring to me. I love the architecture. There's a lot of new buildings that are going up now, so the skyline is changing all the time. And one of the most fun things for me is I do aerial photography, which means I go up in a helicopter and I fly over the New York City area taking photos for clients or for myself. And what's really cool about that, well, is we have to take the doors off the helicopter so we don't have glare on the glass. So I'm flying around 1,500 feet above Manhattan, hanging out of a helicopter taking photographs. It doesn't get any better than that.
Definitely. And it's interesting that you bring that up because we've actually spoken to a photographer from Chicago, and he does a similar thing where he does these heli tours and he takes photographs of Chicago. Was it difficult at first starting out and taking these pictures from such a high place in the sky?
Well, there's a lot of challenges, especially when you have the doors off and especially in the winter. So there's a lot of wind and it gets very cold. And as you probably could imagine, the helicopter vibrates a lot and it's constantly moving and all of that. So you have to know what your camera settings are so you can get the sharpest shots.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Is a big part of it how, I guess, advanced or how expensive your camera is, or do you think it's all up to the photographer to find the right shot?
So I get asked this question a lot, and I'll say that camera equipment is important, but it doesn't necessarily make the photograph or the photographer. I've seen some really, really talented photographers who use iPhones. So, I tend to use the more expensive professional equipment. I actually have a camera over here. I can show you guys real quick if you want.
For sure.
Well, this is what I shoot with. All right, and you can see the lens is like a telescope, which allows me to get close to distant objects. That's how I do all my moon photos and all of that. So you can imagine it takes a little getting used to. You have to learn all the settings and all the, how to use it and all of that. But once you do, you're able to do a lot more than you can do with just a phone, for instance.